So, hello, Jade. Thank you so much for meeting with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So excited. Jade is actually Jade Jarvis. I'll say the whole name. She is a news reporter in Cleveland, Ohio, and she's actually a Norristown area high school graduate, which is really cool. So we're really excited to talk to her today and see how she got to where she is and learn some information on how some of you can get there. Before I get started, I always like to ask, what is something that you're currently watching or reading, just to get some more information on like what you're interested in?
Yeah, so right now I'm like slowly reading Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed, which
I've
is
heard about
actually
this.
it's based in Philadelphia. So, and the main character went to Temple, which I went to Temple. So, um, it that kind of drew me in, but it's also a really good story just about um, kind of like race relations in the modern age. So
Cool.
that's a pretty good one. And then I got this book, which I'm going to start, which is Your Hidden Superpower by Adrienne Bankert, who works for ABC News. And it's about the kindness that makes you unbeatable at work and connects you with anyone. So she's just like amazing, an amazing journalist. So I got that for my birthday. So I want to start that after I finish the other one. And then watching, I just watched Emily in Paris on Netflix. I finished that one,
Is that
the
good? I
series,
saw it.
and yeah, it is. It's cute. It's just like an easy watch. Like if you like Gossip Girl or you like any of those teen like CW shows and stuff, it's just like easy going.
It's like
Yeah,
nostalgic,
so I
right?
watched
It's
that.
like
Mm-hmm.
old time's sake. Very
Since
cool.
we can't go anywhere, it's set in Paris, so it's nice to just look at the scenery and stuff.
I'll dig it. I dig it. Okay, both those books sound good too. I'll have to add those to my repertoire to read later on. So I guess I'm gonna like jump around a little bit with the questions. Because you had said you're reading Your Hidden Superpower, and that is she's a news reporter. And we'll get into like what you do and things like that. But I just had a question about, I know a lot of times where people have licenses or things that they have to maintain, they have to do like continuing education. Do you have anything formal that you have to do to stay relevant, I guess, in the field?
No, so I just have my bachelor's in media studies and production from Temple, and pretty much, I mean, you can go through the career with just a college degree. I feel like that's before, I think like back in the day, like some people did the job and they didn't even have a college degree, but now it's like you need one in journalism or a related field to at least get your foot into the door. And then some people go the extra mile and they might get their master's or something like that if they want to further their education. But really a lot of it is just like on the job training, I would say. This is one of those jobs where the education that you get in a formal setting is super important, of course, but there's nothing like actually getting out there and getting your boots on the ground and doing the job itself. And you learn so many different things from different stories, different people you interview. A breaking news story where there's like a house fire is different from a political interview where you're preparing your questions for the mayor or a senator or something like that. So you really have to go into each situation and just kind of feel it out and learn from your mistakes.
That's very cool. Okay, so then we'll hop back into what I would normally start with like, what does your typical day or week look like?
So a typical day, for me, I'm a general assignment reporter, so I work like a normal like 9 to 6, 9 to 5 shift. So we start out every day with our morning editorial meeting. So all the managers, all the producers, all the reporters, we all get onto what would normally be in the newsroom. We all gather around a table, but now it's a Zoom call. And we talk about all of the trending stories that are online. The assignment desk editor talks about, what the breaking news of the day might be, or any press releases that came in from city agencies and things of that nature. And then the reporters all pitch their stories. So things that they have been able to develop based off of their own sources, things they might have read in the newspaper, or things they just might have seen out and about in the community. And so the managers and the producers, they take all that information and then they decide which stories they want to pursue for the day. So that's when you get your assignment as a reporter. Hopefully they'll be like, okay, you can do your story, or they might assign you to another one if there's something that's bigger going on. Like now that we're getting close to the election, a lot of the stories are election voting related. So some of that stuff going on in the grand scheme of society take precedence over maybe the story that you might have pitched. So once you get out the door, typically we would ride in the same car with our photographer from the station, but now with COVID, we're separate. So we meet up with them, you do your interviews, your photographer gets the extra B-roll shots, and then you find a place to write, like it might be in McDonald's. A lot of the time it's just in your own car. If you have time to come home, you can work from home. And then you send it off to your manager for approval so they can make sure everything's good. And then your editor, then you track it with your voice, and then your editor edits it, and then it goes on TV. So over the course of the day, it could take anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours, or it could be something that takes all day and you're rushing to get it in by the deadline of whatever show you're in. Like if your story is slated to air at 5:15, I've had stuff go in like the minute before, just because it was that quick, or
wow.
that rushed. So
Wow. Seems like a high demand. It could be a high demand job depending on the day.
yeah, there's a lot of stress involved. And sometimes it's like, I would say 97% of the time things work out the way that you're expecting them to, but then of course there's that 3% where it's like, oh, well, we didn't get it in, or we couldn't get the interview, or and they have to switch gears. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Now you said you have a photographer that goes with you. Now who actually records when you're talking? Do they do that, or are they just taking still shots?
So the photographer will have all the microphones and everything. So they'll mic your interview subject up, and then typically you're not mic'd up for that. Sometimes if it's a different format interview, they might want to hear your voice too, but typically we just use sound bites. So we just mic up the interview subject. And then once I write it, and then once it's time to track my voice, if I'm still with the photographer, I'll track it with him, like his microphone, like just in the car as a makeshift booth or a sound booth. And then when I'm at home, I have like my own little microphone that they gave us that plugs into your phone, and I just go in the closet and I do and make my own like audio recording studio. So we had to become creative during time.
Very cool. And you've been virtual since March. How long have you guys been kind of out in the field and working from home?
Yeah, so we got kicked out of the station at the end of March when things started to shut down in Ohio. Our company, pretty much the only people who are allowed in there are people who need to be in there, like the anchors and some of the behind the scenes people. But for the reporters and stuff, we haven't been back since March, and I don't know when we're going back.
Wow. Yeah, seems like a lot of people are virtual right now. So, how did you become interested in this field?
Yeah, I wasn't always interested in doing this. When I went to started my freshman year at Temple, I initially went in as a biology major because I liked bio in high school, and I was like, I want to be a doctor. And then after they told us all about what we have to do, I was like, I'm not a math and science person to that degree. Like, it just takes a lot. So I've always loved writing. So then I was like, okay, well, I'll do English. And then I was like, I don't know if what my career path would be if I became an English major. I'm not super into I'm not a great teacher, so I didn't want to be an English teacher or anything. So my mom actually suggested going into journalism since I had written for a high school newspaper. And I did have some interest in journalism. So, but I didn't want to do print journalism, so I decided to declare in media studies and production, which is more the TV side of it, just to see all that it was and to get, gauge my interest in doing that. So my major was really all encompassing. It wasn't just in front of the camera. It was also, you learned how to operate a camera. You learned how to do some stuff in the control room with some of the technical details. We did do just some stuff in front of the camera as well, but it just was like well-rounded in that kind of way. So that's why I got into it. And I kind of narrowed down my track as I continued further through college and was like, okay, well, I want to try reporting. So.
Very cool. It seemed like Temple has a really good program. We went to visit their media studies. We actually saw you on the wall. I told people, I was like, oh, look, she went to Marshtown. But yes, they seem like they have a really awesome program. You felt like you learned a lot there.
Yeah, they do. And there are just so many, well, I'll say Luke Line, who the school is now named after, the School of Media and Communication, he just invested a ton of money into building up the broadcasting studio. So there's like a full TV studio and they do real newscasts. There's a television station at Temple. And then, the journalism and the media studies departments are staffed by former professionals in the field. Like there have been people who've been anchors at CBS 3 who now teach, people who've worked at Channel 6 who are now professors there. So there's just like a wealth of knowledge coming, like when you have people who are teaching you who have actually done it before, it kind of like it hits different.
Yeah, absolutely.
they just know.
Absolutely.
They know what they're, instead of someone that, like, of course we have people who have not been, who worked in a professional setting, and you still respect them as well. But when you actually see someone, you're like, oh my gosh, like you worked with Jim Gartner for years. So obviously it's like, I want to take in all that I can from you guys.
Right. That's really cool. Really dope. So what do you enjoy most about your job?
I would say no 2 days are the same. And I don't work behind a desk. Well, now really anymore, but just being able to go out into the community and meet different people and to tell their stories. So over the past couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of stories that are focused on small business owners and how they are kind of persevering through the pandemic, and just to hear all the things that they've gone through. This has, been probably the scariest couple of months of their lives, not knowing if they're going to have a place to go to work or a way to provide for their family. So just being able to tell those stories. And then like I've heard, they've come back to me and said, after your story aired, we had, so many people reach out to us, or we had so many people come into the store. So just to be able to see like the kind of immediate impact of what you're doing to help people. So
that's
I think
awesome.
that's my favorite part.
That's awesome. So you're literally changing their lives. Like you can help more people come and get some funding, or even if they're just buying stuff from them. That's pretty cool. Okay, I love it. And then what kind of problems do you deal with at work?
Problems. Everything from people may not get back to you by that, like I was saying, that deadline, and like, stuff happens, they're working too, but that's frustrating because you're trying to put a story on the air and you have that hard deadline. Like maybe for other jobs, it's like, okay, well, I'll try tomorrow, but it's like, no, we got to get this on by 5 o'clock today. So that's a challenge. Honestly, dealing with, sometimes people are not very nice. They'll send like not so nice comments in, whether it's valid or, it's just something superficial, like about how you look on TV that day or how you pronounced a word. And then it is difficult, I would say right now, with not being in the newsroom, and we're like communication is our industry, it's our business. So communication with people that we work with is, it's up and down. People are not that responsive over text. Like, one of your managers might prefer text, one might prefer a call. and then you can't reach them, or they're in a meeting, they're on Zoom. You know, we're using email, we're using Slack, we're using phones, we're using everything to try to communicate with each other, and sometimes it just falls through the cracks. So that's tough too.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I guess you kind of touched on it, but is there any current issues or trends in the field that students should be aware of or know about?
I mean, I've been hearing this since I was in school about how everything is like turning to digital, and how digital is just like, I don't think TV is going away. Like, I don't think in my lifetime we're going to see people just like not turn on the TV and watch the news. But I would say definitely keep up on your digital presence. If you can, you know, tweet about things that you're seeing, tweeting out articles, engaging with people, building your following. That definitely makes a difference, and it makes an impact. When you're going to get hired or you're applying for a job, they're going to look at that for sure. But also, so your stories, when you finally do get that job, have the reach that you want them to have. Because, you know, once it does air on TV, that's it. I mean, if you didn't catch it at 5:30, then, you know, the people who watch TV, they're not going to see it again. But it does live on online, and you can prolong the life of a story if you know how to promote it and you have that following.
That's a good to know.
So I would say, yeah, you know, make sure you keep up on your digital footprint or something like that.
That's good to know. Even if you're not in media, keeping up with your digital footprint, because everybody's watching you. So making sure you know what you're posting and it represents your brand.
Yeah.
Cool. Would you say like your job affects your work-life balance, or how does it do that?
I think so, just because I think when you're a journalist, you have to be up on current events. You just have to know what's going on in the community, what's going on in the world, and it's really hard to unplug. I found, especially since I've been working from home, it's like this has become my office. So it's like, when do I turn off my phone and like unplug from the emails and like trying to set stuff up in advance? And, you know, sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm available at, you know, we can talk at 7:30 p.m. But it's like, I don't, you know, I'm off work at that time, but I just want to, you know, continue to set myself up for success for the next day. So I would say yes, especially in this industry, when you're expected to always, you know, be up on the latest news, it is really hard to manage that kind of work-life balance and step away from, you know, being plugged in.
Yeah, and this field it's not like you graduate from college and you get a job wherever you want to live, right? You kind of have to go wherever you get a job.
Yeah.
How does that work with hiring?
So yeah, that's one thing I would say, if anyone wants to go into this field, that's probably the number one thing that you're going to have to make sure that you're willing to do, is to go anywhere, and especially that you're willing to go to a small town, because in TV there are like 210 television markets, and they are ranked, you know, of course, number 1 is the biggest, and then 210 is the smallest. So people who work in those top 10 markets, which New York is number 1, Philly is number 4. Those are the cream of the crop. Like, you have several years of experience under your belt. You're a seasoned journalist. You know, they're expecting you to be able to cover these big stories that originate in these big cities and do them justice and not mess up. So in the smaller markets, that's where your training wheels are on, and you get your first experience. So, and I mean, for me, growing up in the suburbs of Philly, I mean, Philly is my hometown. So it's like, I had to move away. I couldn't, you know, graduate from Temple and just get a job in Philly. So, and a lot of people, I think, especially, I mean, anyone who's watching this who graduated from Norristown, that's the same situation that they're going to be in. So they're going to have to look at, my first job was in Scranton, which is northeastern Pennsylvania. So that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours from Norristown, Philly area. So that wasn't that bad, but I know some people who moved to North Dakota or Montana, just because, you know, they were hungry for it and they wanted to get that experience, and they knew that they had to go far away to get it. because it is so competitive. So even though, you might apply for a job in Scranton, so many other people are too. So you have to be able or be open to go anywhere in the country.
Yeah. Now, does it matter? Like if I don't know, I graduated from college and then I'm looking for a job and number 210 hires me, but I'm doing all these stories. Would it be just as good as if I went to like number 50? Like, does it matter where you go as long as you're doing a good job, or where you go matters?
No, so I guess my path is a little bit more unconventional because my first market on TV was Market 57, which is technically a mid-sized market, and most people who are working in that market have maybe like 4 or 5 years experience, whereas I didn't have any experience. So I'll say a lot of it is it's luck, it's skill, and yeah, those two things combined. So if you can kind of impress your news director or whoever's hiring you and show them I have potential, this is what I've done, and this is what I'm working towards, then they might want to take a chance on you. But I guess it depends. It's a lot of different factors, things that factor into it. A lot of it is likability too. So
That makes sense. And did you have like a video or something from college that you show when you're interviewing? How does that work?
Yeah, so if you want to be a reporter, one of the most important things is to get your reporter reel put together and put on YouTube. So your reporter reel is just like clips of some of your best work. So at first they want to see a highlight reel at the beginning of you on camera, you talking to the camera, you engaging with the audience. And then they want to see some longer form pieces of your work. So the entire story, just all in one go. So that is pretty much the news director's first introduction to you as a potential reporter, and to see some examples of your work. So what you would do is you send that to them in an email or an application format, and they get like hundreds, thousands of these sometimes that are just like, they have to just watch. And so it's like, I heard something of like the first 10 seconds, if they don't like you, they'll turn it off and then that's it. So you really have to grab them from the beginning, and make sure that, you put your best stuff on there.
Okay. Would you do something like untraditional in the beginning? Like,
I mean, I guess some people do. We like to see active live shots. Like, so maybe your first one would be you at a protest or something that shows that you're really thick into the story and you're handling the situation, you're conveying the information in a clear way. That could be something that could grab their attention. And it depends on the type of job that you're applying for too. Like if you're applying for like a lifestyle or entertainment job, like they want to see like energy all the time, like you talking to whoever the local celebrity is, wherever you were at college, or, you interviewed maybe someone who did a campus visit or something like that. But also it really just depends on the news director. Sometimes they just see somebody and they like them. They like the way they look. That's a huge part of it. And they like, maybe the sound of their voice. And some people, they'll watch your reel and they'll be like, I don't really like her. So, or we're looking for a woman, or we're looking for a man. And they might have like 50 reels from a woman, but it's like, we really want a guy for this role. So all the women are just like, tossed to the side. So it really just depends on that, whoever is doing the hiring.
sounds like a really competitive market.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go for it.
You kind of touched on it. Could you talk like more about like the physical standards that you like have in this job?
Yes. Go ahead.
No, I was just clarifying appearance.
Yeah. So, I mean, professional dress, like business casual, you don't want to wear t-shirt. I mean, I guess it depends on the story. Like if you're covering a storm or something, then it's okay to like have a hat on and stuff. But really, they want to see you in, you know, professional dress, you know, whatever hairstyle that you choose, which I will say as a Black woman, I'm seeing so many more, you know, Black female journalists wear their natural hair, which is amazing. And so many news directors and companies across the country are saying, basically, come as you are. We want to see you in, you know, however you feel comfortable. Because however you feel comfortable wearing your hair or wearing your makeup or whatever style of clothing that you want to wear, as long as it's appropriate, you're going to feel comfortable in front of the camera, and that's when you're going to do your best work. So I've seen women with box braids. I've seen women with, you know, twist outs or braid outs. You know, I wear my hair straight. You know, it really just depends on how you look best. But I would say you have to still you can't look unkempt in any kind of way. So just make sure you don't look sloppy. But as far as hair, makeup, as long as it looks good and you look professional, then I think that's
because
the way to
I
go.
was I know some people that's a concern for them, like as a Black woman, the different kind of hairstyles. So it was nice to hear you say like box braids and stuff like that. Another thing I just wanted to ask about was like nails.
Mm-hmm.
Does that matter?
So nails, I don't do anything to my nails. I've seen people with like acrylics, you know, no nail polish at all, gel manicures. Like, I honestly have not seen a lot of people wear like the super long, like coffin shaped nails or anything like that. Just in my experience, I don't know if news directors would have a problem with that, since you're not really focusing on your hands, so you probably would be able to get away with it. But I will say that in your first couple of markets, you'll probably be an MMJ, which means you're carrying all your own equipment and you're operating the camera yourself. So for me, why I never had my nails done is because like I just was always just messing them up as soon as I got them done. So I would keep that in mind. If you want really long nails, you might come into the situations where you're just like carrying a bunch of stuff around all the time and you might break them. So
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If someone was interested in like being a news anchor, could you just apply to be a news anchor right out of college, or is that something you need experience for?
That it depends, honestly. I will say a lot of this business is luck, and if people are willing to take a risk on you. So straight out of college, I would say you could. I've known people who have gotten weekend anchor roles where they do like some reporting during the week and they're the anchor on the weekend, and they just show some of the stuff that they've anchored in college. Like if they had a TV station at college and they had some clips of them on the desk there. Typically it's a way smaller market. Like I don't think any top 10 is going to throw you on the desk right out of college, but definitely in the smaller markets, if there's an anchor position open, I would definitely apply for it, because you never know, that news director might be like, oh, she has potential, and you know, she or he, you know, they have some good clips from college and we want to take a chance. Also, just like to keep it real, like the younger you are, the less that they probably feel that they have to pay you, which is another thing about the industry. It's not, don't get into the industry for the money. Because it's definitely not there at the beginning, and until you work your way up to, you know, several years in the industry, you're probably not going to see a lot of money. So that's another factor in it. The younger that you are, you know, they probably figure they don't have to pay you that much.
That makes sense. It's sad, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
What advice would you give students? And I know we talked a little bit about it with like the highlight reels and things like that, but what advice would you give to a student who's interested in this career field?
Like in terms of applying and getting into the field?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say be open to going anywhere. Like, of course, I mean, if there's a limit for you of where you don't want to go, or if there's financial implications if you move far away from your family. Like, of course, take that into consideration, but really keep an open mind about where you want to go, because some of those opportunities they might not be close with or within a few hours of your family. It might be, down south or in the Midwest. And I would say when you're applying for jobs, you just have to be persistent. I sent out probably over 100 applications, like to my resume and my cover letter, my reel, to news directors all over the place, and maybe got like 5 or 6 calls back before I got that, finally one turned into an actual job offer. It's just something that you have to be consistent with. You have to be persistent and determined to grab somebody's eye and make them interested in pursuing something further with, the job opportunity. Follow up with them, after you send the application, with an email or even a phone call if you feel that bold and the phone number, and you can get transferred to their line and say, hey, did you have a chance to look at my reel? And I just want to talk to you further about it. I would say in this industry, being bold and being the person who makes the first move and who is always, just trying to, I guess, promote themselves and push themselves forward is probably the person who's going to succeed. Because like you said, it is competitive and there are so many people who are vying for such few jobs. You have to advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And then in a sense of, besides that, you have to be working on your skills at the same time. So practice in the mirror, practice your writing. Writing is so important when you want to be a reporter or a journalist. So look at people on TV that you might admire, reporters in your hometown market that you're like, oh, I like the way that she speaks. I like the way that she delivers her scripts and the way that she talks. Look at their articles online and see how they write in that sense. And you probably will have to write some web stories as well. And then try to replicate that yourself and see how it compares to what the professionals are doing.
Okay. That was a little bit into my next question. You said writing was so important. What are some other essential qualities to having this career?
Yeah. So writing is number one. I would say with being a reporter, you got to be personable because you want to make those sources in the community. Those are the people who are going to tell you about what's going on and give you those really juicy stories that nobody else has, because that's what your boss is going to be looking for. They're not looking for you to come to the editorial meeting and pitching the story about the shooting down the street that we all know about. They want you to pitch something original, and they want you to show that you have a grasp of what's going on in the community. So be personable, bring them cookies, that kind of thing, like butter these people, sometimes you have to butter people up. You have to, I guess you have to be inquisitive. You have to want to ask questions. I think a lot of reporters are inquisitive by nature, just because they always want to get to whatever the root of whatever it is. It could be pop culture or something with celebrities or, just like a true crime story, but they always want to know more. And so I think, especially when you're out on stories, you always have to go the extra mile to be like, okay, well, what about this? And what happens next, or what happened here, and who can I ask to round this out a little bit more? Can we talk to their neighbor, or can we talk to X, Y, and Z? Be inquisitive. And I think those are the main ones. Be a good writer, be personable and be resourceful and be inquisitive.
Okay. When you're interviewing someone, because you're saying you have to get the scoop, has there ever been a time where you interviewed, I don't know, say you interviewed me for a story, but you got too many interviews or something. So I'm sitting at home with my family, but I'm going to be on TV, and then I don't show up on the television. Do they get upset with that? Does that ever happen?
Yeah, people definitely get upset. I had that happen a week or two ago. And sometimes there's kind of an unwritten rule in the industry that when you interview someone, you say that it's supposed to air at so-and-so today, or it's slotted to air at that time, but there's a possibility that it won't. because there always is that possibility. Like 2 minutes before the show could go on, like, you know, something could happen with the president. Like when he got coronavirus, you know, that entire, I forget what day that was, but like that entire show did not air as planned because that was the biggest news in the entire world. So some stories just don't air for that purpose. So I think it's just best to be honest with whoever you're interviewing and say, like, this is supposed to air, but there's a chance that it may not. And I'm sorry in advance. Some people still might be mad though, because, you know, they were looking forward to it, or they took time out of their day to do the interview, but.
Aww. Yeah, the little 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
How would you suggest someone who's interested in this field to set themselves apart from the competition? I know, actually, you kind of talked about that when you talking about getting bold and people who are bold. So I guess I'll switch gears a little bit. All of my students are college freshmen, and, you know, they're looking at college differently. It doesn't look as traditional as we went through when we went to college. What's some advice you would give to them who are in college right now, trying to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their lives, or just trying to, you know, make it through their first year of college?
Right. So typically I would say, well, first of all, if your college has any kind of broadcasting club or a TV station or anything like that that you can get involved in, I would do it just as early as possible, because when I was in my club, I got to do like everything from behind the scenes to in front of the camera, go out and shoot stories. I even did the weather once. So you get to do so many different things. You really get to hone in on what you like the most, since it's kind of like a mini TV station. And then besides that, you know, pre-COVID, I would say I know some schools you can't apply for internships until you're like a sophomore, but apply for internships and do as many as possible, because of course, you know, you get some of that on the job experience because you're in the TV station, but also that's where you make some of your first connections, which is also it's huge in this industry. Everyone knows everyone somewhere. So getting those connections, especially if you are in your hometown market and one day you want to come home, you could always like keep in touch with some of the mentors that you've made there, and, you know, say, oh, you know, is there an opening? Like, I'd be interested in that. Like, maybe you could pass my information along. And also it's just good to have mentors in general, just so they can, like, you know, coach you as you make your way through your career, watch some of your work, see, you know, give you constructive criticism. Now in the age of COVID, I don't know if like a lot of TV stations are letting interns into the building, just because, you know, they're not even letting us in there. So I would say really focus on what is available at your college in the absence of an internship, for sure.
Awesome. Cool. Chantel, do you have any other questions?
Yes. So what are your long-term goals as far as like in the next 5 years or so, 10 years?
Well, I think for a lot of us, COVID has changed the way that we are thinking about, you know, what our career goals are, or how we're going to progress in the future. And I was always like, I'm moving to, you know, the West Coast, or I'm moving like far away, or I'm moving to New York to do this. But I think I want to go back home because I miss my family and being able to be around them. And also I think just Philly is a great market to work in. After I graduated from Temple, I worked for 2 years at the Fox station there, just like behind the scenes. And so I got to see like some of the stories the reporters do there. So, I mean, it's my hometown, so I feel like I have a connection to it in that way, and I'll be able to do good work there. I've thought about the idea of like going or trying to get to the national level, like, you know, the correspondents who go around the country and do all kinds of different stories everywhere, like even around the world sometimes, but that's a big commitment. So I guess I just have to think about it. But I know for sure for my next step, I want to go home for a while.
Okay. Because I was thinking, consider like the national level, or just going into like maybe celebrity entertainment or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I did, honestly, when I was in college, or I mean, still now, I would love to do entertainment reporting. it's just something that I haven't been able to kind of figure my way out. It's been a little bit more difficult for me to find my path to doing that. But I would love to do stuff like that, especially when everything is back to normal, because now it's like there's not even red carpets and stuff, so it's not fun. But so I have a couple years to think about it, I guess.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Jade. I feel like every time I do these interviews, we've done, I don't know, like 6 or so now. I feel like we learn so much from all the different professions. But one thing I love to hear that is consistent is like, make sure that you're always networking, making sure that you're advocating for yourself, taking advantage of opportunities on campus, whether it's volunteering or getting involved in a club or organization of a program you like. It's really cool to note that even though like you might be interested in nursing or you might be interested in becoming a news reporter, like these are these foundational things that you can do now, and that'll help you regardless of whatever career you want to do. And I think that's really good to teach the students in addition to all of the intricacies of each profession. So I thank you so much for joining us. It was very informative. You're always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me again.
Yes.
Thank you.